Hey everybody, and welcome to the Learning Loop podcast, your best source for educational insights and trends. I'm Chris, your host. Today I'm bringing to you another panel conversation from our first ever Seesaw Symposium that happened on May 20th, 2025. This was recorded as a live session, so the audio may sound a little different, but I wanted to make sure you got exposed to the amazing insights that are found in this session. The session is titled Maximizing Impact, Simplifying Tech Tools, and this features three amazing presenters from across the nation. Let's tune in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad to have you here today at the Seesaw Symposium. This panel session is focused on maximizing impact, yet simplifying tech tools. I have an amazing group of administrators with me here today. But first, I'm Angela from the Seesaw team. I have the pleasure each and every day to work with administrators and teachers all over the world who are integrating Seesaw into their schools and school groups daily. We are going to kick things off first by introducing our amazing panel of presenters. Brittany Jones is the current leader for instructional technology for Waller Independent School District, located outside of Houston, Texas. She is an alum of Emory University, Relay Graduate School of Education, and Teach for America. In Waller ISD, she supports instructional technology programs and staff members with coaching and training. Welcome, Brittany.
Hi, nice to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Next up, we have Caitlin Murphy, who has championed Seesaw's multimedia for all learners to show their learning. Now, as the district instructional technology specialist, she empowers teachers across subjects with Seesaw's formative and multimedia tools for student success. She strives to provide opportunities for students to make learning visible. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
And finally, we have Allie, who brings 11 years of public education experience, including 8 years as a classroom teacher, to her role as a technology integration coordinator. For the past 2 years, she has supported technology implementation across all elementary schools in a 19,000 student district. A Seesaw certified educator since 2017, Allie currently serves as the district's Seesaw administrator, demonstrating her expertise in leveraging technology for student learning. Welcome, Allie.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here today.
So as you all can see, we are surrounded by an amazing panel. We have lots to discuss, so I'm going to jump right in with our first topic of today, which is, we're going to start with Caitlin, by the way. What signs should school leaders look for to know when their tech stack has become too complex or burdensome?
All right. Well, I feel like this is so relevant. And now, in the here and now, I think teachers often get, teachers get confused about, one, how to access the tools. There's so many resources out there. And sometimes it's unnerving for teachers. Where do I click? Where do I go? I thought I wasn't supposed to use this assessment tool. I thought I was supposed to use this assessment tool. There's so much information, and I think it rapidly changes because there's so much shiny, this is new, let's implement, and it gets confusing for our teachers. So I think the first thing to look for is, do my teachers know where to go to use our resources? And if they don't, that's sign number one. I think that they're overwhelmed and that there's too much. Number two, I think looking at overlapping tools that do the same thing, but across different platforms. We've experienced some of that in our district, where we'll have some teachers who are giving, let's say, an assessment. Some use Seesaw, some are using our DNA FastBridge, some are just using paper pencil. And it's really hard to truly compare our student data with one another. So is it the kids and their learning that is, I'm so sorry. Is it the students and they're just having a hard time learning the subject? Is it the teacher? Is it the instruction? XYZ? If you're using different tools or there's too many tools, you can't really get to the root of the instruction. And I think that that's thing number two to look at. You're unable to compare your students and their data across a simple grade level team is too complex.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. I also like to pull usage reports. I love pulling different program reports, and it can signal two different things. It can signal either there's an overload or a lack of the value. So maybe teachers have too many tools, that they're using one tool for three things, or using another tool for something that can solve the same problem, similar to what Caitlin said. Or maybe they don't understand how it truly works, and so they don't value it. Because they don't know what it does. They're not, oh, I do it for this part and not this part. So I like to look at the usage reports for all the programs and to see what are teachers using and how they're using it. I also, I know many peers, they do not like vendor conversations or vendor phone calls. I answer all the vendor phone calls. I'm like, hey, you have a new tool? I will listen. I will tell you all what I am thinking. I will tell you our problems and see if there's a better way to solve it. So I like to talk to vendors. I love my customer support managers. They are amazing, especially at Seesaw. I love my CSM, and she gets all my information. She knows everything about my school district and what's important and what we're going through right now.
Yeah, like Caitlin and Brittany both said, I think simplifying that tech stack is really important to really dig in and make learning meaningful. Because if you have too many tools, it's overwhelming and no one's doing it well. So just to really zero in on what you're using and then using it authentically, I think is super important. And then with those vendor phone calls, I'm with you, Brittany. I take all those as well. And if we have multiple tools that are doing the same thing, we really try to streamline that so it's not overwhelming. And every year with renewals, we're looking at what we're currently using. And, you know, if they've gotten new features, we might drop off something else that isn't being utilized according to those usage reports.
Yeah. Actually, I love to piggyback off of that, Allie, because I think another great stakeholder group that sometimes gets overlooked when you're looking at metrics is how do we pull in our curriculum team? In my district, they're called coordinators, because they have so much to handle, but what are their metrics looking like? What tools are they using? And sometimes they might not be looking at different tools. And so they have no idea that there's this great, like, for example, in Seesaw, we have our early literacy lessons, and those directly support our science of reading in our district. And our coordinator did not know that those existed, which was kind of a breakdown on our part. But the more that we are aware of those resources, the better that we could support our coordinators and important stakeholders to ensure that we're not overloading and getting more and more. We're keeping it simple.
Yeah, that's such a good point, to make sure you're bringing in all the stakeholders, not just maybe if you are in the tech department only focusing on technology. Allie, you started talking about this a little bit, but I wonder if we can go a little deeper and talk about how are successful districts approaching evaluating and simplifying their digital tools.
Yeah,
Brittany, do you want to start, or Allie, you can start too.
I can start if you want me to. That's good. Yeah, we, again, when it's time for renewal, we really look at all of our tools to see if they're still serving our purpose. And then we look at our other tools, and if they've gotten new features that we can eliminate something else, we do that. 1, to save money, and then 2, to just simplify that tech stack.
Yeah.
And we get requests all the time for new tools. There's something popping up every day, especially in the age of AI and all that's available. And so in our district, we have a process that if someone wants a new resource, they have to fill out a request. And we have a joint meeting bi-weekly with our teaching and learning department and our technology department. And we look at every resource request and we determine if it aligns with our philosophy and with our goals. And then if we can afford it, and then we approve or deny based on that. And we have a clear process for who communicates when. And then our systems team handles, getting things rostered if needed, and go from there.
Yeah, totally agree, Allie. One thing our district does right now, budget is going to drive prioritization. So that's really what we're looking at. Looking at all programs, looking at who's using them, how they're using it, what departments are using it, and who's using it with fidelity. One thing I look at is our high users and also our low users. And I like to talk to those people, those two different categories, and say, okay, how are you using it? Or maybe why aren't you using it? Is there a thing that I'm not thinking about? Is there a block that's keeping you from using it? And get to the bottom of why this program might not be used. I also like to sit in the classrooms and see if they're using it or not using it, and like figure out maybe it's a student issue, a student training issue. So just figuring out why a program is being used the way it's using by higher users and our low users. I think teacher voice is something that is sometimes not taken consideration. And so by getting those teachers to voice their concerns, because they get the schedule concerns, curriculum concerns, they have all those things that they can talk to, and it might be something else, not the program that's preventing them from using it correctly.
Yeah. I think in our district, we kind of are in the shift of the pendulum it's almost like Brittany was saying, we had too much teacher voice and autonomy that they were able to use most tools that they deemed appropriate. And now we're moving towards, like Allie's district, a very clear structured process, getting the right people in the room to approve it. But as we're moving towards that shift, we have to start with an inventory and kind of audit ourselves. So our department was looking at every single system that's around in the district, not just for instructional use, but then taking it to different stakeholder groups. And it was interesting because we brought that to our leadership meeting with our principals, and wow, there were so many tools that were out there that they either, one, did not know that their teachers were using in the classroom, or two, it was unclear how it was being used.
Yeah.
And that's pretty eye-opening. And that's just what we know about. Imagine the tools that our teachers are signing up in the best interest of our students, and they really think it's the best tool, but they're sharing all that data for our kids as well. So we're in the pendulum shift right now, but man, is it so evaluating and being sure that the right people know about all the different tools that are used.
Yeah, so it sounds like getting, first of all, a lay of the land of what's out there, what has maybe accumulated over the years. And I think, Brittany, even having those face-to-face conversations and being in the classrooms, talking to those that are super users and those maybe that aren't using it so much as well. But I'm wondering too, during this whole process, and you're potentially trying to consolidate, what are some of the common pitfalls when trying to reduce the tech fatigue among staff, and how can those be avoided?
Yeah, I can start. So I think about our teachers. There's one thing that I like to pull out is when they're in a seat and they see all these different tools that are available to them, it's nerve-wracking or overwhelming to even take the time in their planning of what's the best resource. We try to really support the open-ended tools. That's why I love a platform like Seesaw, because you can use it across any subject area, any grade level at any time. And it's that multimedia. So you could really support any of your learners. It really lines up well with our UDL guidelines. So that's something that we always strive to. We try to be as blank as possible. So we let the kids show what they know and they're creative. Another thing that I think is a pitfall is sometimes we get the teachers who they just dig in their heels and they say, no, I don't want to do another thing. I like it on paper, which is totally fine. But I usually try to rope them in with efficiency. How can we make this more efficient for you so you can spend more of your time truly teaching or using that data to impact your kids versus you taking the time away from that learning and those opportunities. And once we get that little hook in them, then we're able to bring in more of the engagement, the open-ended tools. And that is huge with our staff, because here's one tool that you can use across all grade levels, all subject areas, and it's easy.
Yeah, like Caitlin was saying, starting with that like one strong platform, we try and really push Seesaw, of course, across all of our buildings, K-5, so that it's consistent for not only the teachers and the students, but also the families, so that there's, one place to look, one place to go. And so most of our professional development is focused on that one strong base. And it can do so many things. Like Caitlin was saying, it is kind of that open canvas of so many multimodal ways to share your learning that it really is that like one-stop shop. And then we do, of course, have some other core tools, like we have a math practice app that's used K5, and a couple of other things. But other than that, we try and just stick with just a few to simplify it for everyone. And then if we do need to bring on another tool, we try and connect it with something we're already doing. Like right now, science of reading and our Read Act in Minnesota is the hot topic. So anything we can tie into that to, like Caitlin was saying, make it easier and more efficient, that's an easy sell for teachers. And so I think if they don't see the value in it and it's not connected to something they already have to do, you're not going to get the buy-in.
Totally.
Yes, I love the idea Caitlin mentioned about roping them in and hooking them. Yes, I'm also that person that if you are you have no idea what to do and you're struggling, I'll do it for you. Like I will show you, I'll do it for you. And then we'll have a coaching conversation about it, about this is what you can do in your classroom. But now that you've already seen it done and seen how effective it was in your classroom with your students, now you're hooked on like, okay, I can do this for the future. It's easy for them to then see the results and make it more meaningful.
Yeah. Brittany, I just want to like piggyback on that. Something that we do in our district, which I think is very successful, is exactly that. We have these coaching cycles, but we conduct it at every single school site, and we work with every single staff member, special area, special education, general education teachers. And within 1 week, we plan a tech integrate lesson. Let's say if we're using Seesaw as a tool, then we're inside the class, and sometimes we're modeling, sometimes we're co-teaching, sometimes we're just the cheerleaders in the back, like, yay, you're a rock star. And then on Friday, we get back together and debrief, and embedding it in that cycle into a work week. They're not taking extra time out of their schedule. It's already embedded. I think it's so impactful. They see that value. They look at that data, like Ali was saying, and it's huge. It's so beneficial.
When I think too, Ali, you mentioned when you have fewer tools, you can really tailor and focus the professional development on that tool or on that core tool that is very versatile and can be applied multiple ways. So you're not always, context shifting too and say, oh, we got to try to squeeze in additional time for this tool and this tool, but just being able to even allow teachers to go deeper into the tool that they already know and can be applied multiple ways, I think is really also an important part to kind of just elevate into the conversation again as well.
Yeah.
So I would like to talk a little bit more about ensuring that the tools you do keep align directly with your instructional goals. How do you really ensure that that is happening, Brittany?
So one thing I like to do, like I said, I love talking to our teachers one-on-one and figuring out what they like and really being able to advocate for the tools they like and the tools they love to use. I think it's also super important, especially with curriculum and instruction, how it's constantly changing, to make sure that you are aligned and in partnerships with the coordinators. And so I'm in a smaller district, and so we all in the same space. And so just talking to them, say, hey, this is what's out here. Can I show you how you can use this program, use this platform in your curriculum? Or can you show me what you would like to see? What could make your job easier? What would give you the data results, the practice that you want to see that your students have? And then also making sure that there's an ease with it. Of course, you don't want to tack on another burden for anyone, including our teachers, coordinators, our students, but make sure there's an ease with the alignment. So that tool that puts the curriculum with the Seesaw lessons, that is super important. The standards alignment, that's super important. I make it here in Seesaw and tag the standards with it. Now, everyone has those standards built in, super important, especially the dashboard. So they're able to see the dash and the data all at once. If I can make it as easy as I can, then you have no choice but to love it. So.
I love that. I agree. And I like what you said about the cross-department collaboration, because this kind of work that we're doing, it can't just live in tech. And I know that we are all here as the tech instructional technology for our district, but really it can't just live with technology or it would die. It has to live with our curriculum and really ensuring that it's aligned to our standards. And that's why I love Seesaw. We're also an Apple district, so we have iPads for our students, and I love those open-ended tools because it really supports, here's a standard, and now let's show a way, or let's gather ways that our students can share their learning. And it takes it away from a worksheet, but really the students owning the learning. And that's so powerful. And I think the more data that you're able to collect of that evidence and share it with your stakeholders, like your curriculum team, I mean, their minds just, they blow. They're like, I didn't know that my kids could create this. I didn't know that this was a feature. And that's where you get to see big gains, because it's not just me saying how great it is. They can hear our students and see that progression, and those open tools just allow for greatness.
Yeah, totally agree with that Seesaw piece and the open-endedness and multimodal, and that's why it is at the core of our, our tech stack that we have in our district. And going back to kind of our resource request process, we're pretty stingy on what gets approved. When we were during those COVID years, when there was every app that was going to solve all your problems during that time, there was a lot more autonomy for the teachers to just choose and pick what they wanted and what looked cool. But since then, we've really tried to tighten it a little bit, especially with like student data privacy and not sharing, usernames and emails and all of that for our kiddos. And so what they have available to them has decreased significantly. But again, I think it's really important to dig into what tools are at the center. And like Seesaw, it fills every subject area. We're standards-based grading in our district. And so allowing our students an open canvas to share what they know about a standard ties in, creativity and collaboration and all of those really important things. So yeah, we want to make sure whatever we're putting in front of students aligns with our goals, our standards. And if it doesn't, we don't approve it, and it gets blocked for usage, unfortunately.
But the intentionality, you can defend every one of those decisions because of the intentionality behind it. And I think you mentioned about the student privacy and protecting our kids. And we always say to our teachers, we're trying to keep our kids' information off the deep, dark web. And so you might really like that platform, but let me show you Seesaw and how we can do the same thing in this platform that's safe and secure. And I don't think we've even talked about the communication piece where the parents can then see their learning as well, which is so important.
Exactly. And I want to go a little bit deeper. I know we started down this path a little bit, but focusing on that student learning, we talked a little bit about tying it to standards, but I would like us to take a moment and share an example where simplifying your tech tools had a measurable impact on student learning or teacher satisfaction. And Brittany, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so I am so excited about this because we're actually in the process of simplifying our tech stack right now. And so we've already started for next year, and I am super excited. I've heard such great feedback. We're going from 2 LMSs in our elementary to just 1, and our teachers are so excited. Our students, when they saw that they had access to Seesaw, they're like, "Oh my God, I see Seesaw!" I'm like, "Yeah," and then just the work that Seesaw has done in 3 through 5 has been amazing in order to convince our teachers and our students, like, hey, this is actually a really good move for everyone involved, and being able to replicate what they are doing in another platform in Seesaw, and show how it's simpler for the teachers to learn it and to master it, but it's also is built for our elementary students. Like, it's designed for them, not changed for them. So it just to have the intentionality of being able to show their thinking in a appropriate form in Seesaw makes it simpler not only for the teachers to only have one platform, but also communication for our families. They're only going through one platform for all their elementary school students, and the ease of also reducing another platform of like you can communicate directly in Seesaw, and it's going to tie them back into their academic. Like the teachers are posting the academic what they're learning in school and also communicating instead of another platform being used just for communication. We have it all in one. So you're coming here every day to talk to your teachers as well as to see your students work and to hear their voices, what's going on in their classroom.
Yeah.
So Brittany, I just want to clarify. So previously you had one LMS that was for primary, like K2, that was Seesaw. And then you had a different one for 3-5.
Yes.
And now you're unifying everyone pre-K through 5 with just using Seesaw.
Yes, I am so excited because we can do a focused elementary training and have everyone be able to help each other out. No matter what grade level you're teaching, they can all support each other in the same platform. And the teachers are excited about it too. It's making things a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. I'm excited for you. I was a former 5th grade teacher and I loved Seesaw from the very beginning, but it was a hard sell for some people. But all the work Seesaw has done over the past 5 years or so is truly amazing, especially for upper elementary. So that's super exciting. One thing we've had Seesaw in our district for a really long time, and it has been through the ebbs and flows of all the things with us. Especially through COVID. That's how we taught virtually for that year or two. And I think that burned teachers out during those COVID years with having to be on the screen and on Seesaw. And so one thing we've tried to do over the past year or two is to kind of reintroduce Seesaw to a lot of those teachers who had that experience, maybe positive, maybe not, and to show them how it has changed and how it can truly help them. There is not enough time in the day for all of the tasks and responsibilities that teachers have to do. So to give them some of those small wins of how, you can push out a auto-graded assessment instead of having to sit and hand correct it on paper. Just those small wins to show teachers, here's how you can do it faster and better. I think that's where we're able to kind of simplify things and get people back to using it in an authentic way. I have a team of tech coaches that are at all of my elementary buildings, and I've given them a monthly PD bundle, I've been calling it. And so each month there's a Seesaw, it's all around Seesaw. And each month there's a focus that comes with a poster. It comes with a mini slide deck, and then it comes with an email that they can literally copy and paste that has links in it. And then all of those posters are hung in high traffic staff areas. So when they're making a copy at the copier, or maybe if they're sitting in the bathroom, some people are posting them in the bathroom, they can read their tip of the month or how to use Seesaw in a different way. And I think that has really helped, just like little quick, easy tips to get people thinking about Seesaw again and how they can use it for efficiency and just that overall positive experience.
I love a good potty PD. It's so efficient. I was going to say, kind of similar to both of you. So we have in my district, we're K through 8, and we actually leverage Seesaw all the way up through 8th grade. And often during our coaching cycles, we'll have Seesaw as our tool, but we're applying it to all different grade levels and standards. And it's amazing because, one, you have our PE teacher who is having students videotape themselves do a skill like how to T-step throw. If you didn't know how to throw a ball, I didn't. And all the success criteria that goes into it. And then the kids are watching their videos, comparing to success criteria and saying, you did this, but I didn't, you stepped with your same leg instead of your opposite leg, and really just expanding the reach of the teacher. It's just so fun. And I also think it's a really great opportunity for our leaders on the campus, our coaches and our administration to see here's one tool and here's some intentional use of the tool. It's not just something that they assign out assignments and kids, the digital worksheet, which we actively are trying to fight the digital worksheet here in our district. And I think for our leaders to see the intentional use of it and how much our kids can take ownership of their learning, that makes a huge impact. And I think that's the biggest impact on our student learning, because it's shifting the focus from our teachers are tired at the end of the day because they're doing all the work. Our teachers, I would love to say that they're well rested. They're not, but they're more well rested because they're having their kids do the hard work as it should be.
Yeah, and I think so many things were mentioned, but a couple that are sticking out right now are very intentional choices to simplify lives of teachers, make their jobs easier, and also giving them multiple opportunities to interact with a tool deeply. And Allie, the chat is literally blowing up because everyone wants these posters and mini slide decks. So stay tuned. We'll talk more about that at the end. So you can just describe it a little bit more. That is not something we created for you, but to share, or we'd share the link. But Allie can kind of elaborate on that in a little bit, because I know people are very curious on what those exactly look like, and getting their hands on those. I know also earlier it was mentioned there's a lot of new tools, especially related. I don't know if it's Allie or Brittany that mentioned AI. There's all sorts of things popping up. And when we think about that balance, how do we make sure that we're balancing innovation with practicality when new tech tools are introduced in our district? And Caitlin, I'm going to let you start.
Okay, that's a good question. I think at its core, anytime that we're using technology in the classroom, it should flow as teaching first, the technology second. The technology should always be the vessel to share their learning. But the instruction standards base should always be first. Yeah. And so when you think about innovation, and there's so many new things, and we're currently, as I said before, we gave tons of autonomy to our teachers to find tools that best supported their students. And it's our role, and this is a shared hat between technology and curriculum and site leadership, is looking at, why do you like that tool? What is it doing? And now how can we move it into a platform that's safe and secure and supports the learning as well. And really the technology should support the best teaching practices and supporting our teachers. And how are we having our students show their work? How are we allowing them to collaborate? So they're not just on technology all day. We want them to be sharing with their peers, collaborating, learning, and then reporting back. So supporting those. And sometimes new tech tools, it's really quick efficiency. And so it's, how can we bring in that efficiency with the tools that we already have? Let me show you something new.
Like Caitlin was saying, that instruction first approach is super important. We don't want our students to simply consume on their device and go on there and stare at the screen and practice their math facts, that kind of thing, or just read their digital books. We're really trying to shift in our district to use technology, as like Caitlin said, to share their learning in whatever way makes sense. So we're also an Apple district, so maybe it is making a keynote or a clips project, but then uploading it to Seesaw to share with families. Or maybe it's, responding to an activity. But making sure that core instruction is in place first, and the device is not a babysitter or a replacement for that strong instruction. And I also think I always look to Seesaw first, how can Seesaw fit this need that someone wants, right, with a different app or a different program, because they probably just don't know what it's capable of if they haven't been living in it, for the past year or so. So I always go there first. And one example, again, literacy is the hot topic right now. So we are really deep into, progress monitoring and figuring out what kids need and how we're going to do that. And so to tie into that, we brought in the new reading fluency assessment feature to save our teachers some time. So of course, they're going to do that first reading with the student in person at their small group table. They're going to listen to them read. They're going to take the notes. They're going to document. But a week or so later, when that student has practiced, now they can go on Seesaw and record their voice reading it. And the teacher gets a really quick word count per minute. They get that fluency. And then if they want to, they could listen back and hear that student read. But just being able to save some time with a feature like that that's already built into a platform kids are used to, teachers are used to, I think that's when there's some big wins. And so that was kind of a game changer for us this year. It's not used to the degree yet that I think it could be, but we're getting there. And as we add things to our district library for people to use, I think that's going to be a really important tool moving forward.
Can I quickly piggyback off of that, Allie? Because I also love that reading fluency tool. And something that we did this year very intentionally is I'm in the state of Arizona, and in third grade, they now include oral reading fluency on our state assessment. That's brand new. So this year in all of our coaching cycles, we took screenshots of that testing environment, but embedded that into Seesaw and then included the Seesaw fluency. So all year, our third graders were practicing oral reading fluency, and it looked like a testing environment, but the teachers could get the data from it and see the kids. And we talked to some third graders after testing, and I said, how was the oral reading? Did you have fun recording? And they were like, yeah, I mean, sure. It's like what we do all the time. I mean, on base, which I used to teach third grade, and I know that was scary for our kids. So it was such a great way to take away some of the scary.
Yeah, Caitlin, I did a similar thing. I'm in the state of Texas, and with our English language learners, having them practice their vocabulary, kind of similar to the kind of the environment or their state test, and have them practice in there. And they can practice on the platform, but the teachers do not get the data back. And so putting it in Seesaw, the teachers can then listen and get feedback and then send it back to the kids, say, hey, let's try this, and have them coach on that. So I totally agree with that. I think also just being, I missed the classroom. I taught kindergarten, my favorite grade to teach. And I missed I feel like in the classroom, I would get so many ideas because a problem would happen. Yeah. And in my current position, I'm getting it like secondhand from teachers. And they might tell me, they might not tell me, but I love like just being on the campus and in the hallway and like listening for problems. I'm listening. Hey, can I show you something? There's a problem. Let me see, can I fix it? Or let's work on fixing it together. And I think that's how I practice like that. I get inspired by our teachers in the classroom, what they're going through. I also, not only I'm a Seesaw admin, but I also have 2 kindergartners. Well, they graduated today from kindergarten, so they're going to first grade, but they're my Seesaw guinea pigs. And so I like to see what they're doing in their classroom. I like to try to, let me make a game from this one, Seesaw. What do you like? You like Sonic the Hedgehog? Let me try to do something fun that's similar that will get you to practice well without becoming bored. Like, let's try to be creative about it.
Fantastic. I feel having this conversation, my life has already been simplified by just really focusing on a tool that can do multiple things across multiple content areas and grade levels. So this has been really exciting. I want to open it up to those here that are live that have questions. So please put the questions in our Q&A and I will serve them up to our amazing panelists here to give their insights and feedback. So go ahead and make sure you're typing in there. Allie, I'm going to start with you because they are all very curious about these monthly printables that you provide and also short slide decks. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about your process or some of the things that you're highlighting, an example of what one of them looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So I have 8 of them that I created this year, pretty timely, depending on what our district was focusing on or what I saw as a need. And so like, for example, September's was, it talked about connecting families and then posting a picture. Like that was it. Like, let's simplify, let's get into Seesaw and use it. And so I created my poster on Canva, gave a quick tutorial. I didn't want to make it too busy with information. All of the posters had QR codes to either a Seesaw video from the Help Center or the YouTube channel. And then I gave my tech coaches a slide deck, most of which I just kind of expanded on those same ideas that were on the poster, but with more screenshots of like walking them through how to do it. And the idea behind it was just 5 to 10 minutes that my tech coach could use at a staff meeting if they wanted to, or they could just send out the slides with that pre-created email that I used AI to generate. Just making it easy, because my tech coaches are full-time teachers as well, and this is a stipend position for them. And so they don't have the time to create the resource. And so I did that work for them. And then monthly they would get their new bundle at their tech coach meeting and go back to their buildings to hang it up and use it.
And I think, Allie, something important just to reiterate is that you always started with the need or purpose, not the tool.
Right.
So you were focused on connecting with families. Seesaw was the solution for that. Or you're focusing on, you mentioned all of the focus on reading and progress monitoring. That is a need. How is the tool going to serve that need? So I think that's really, really important. Juliet has a question. She is curious about screen time protocols and if those are in place in your districts, or how are you balancing off-screen and on-screen time? Brittany, I'm going to let you potentially take a stab at this first.
Yes, I know in certain programs, we do have a protocol or a minimum amount of, they have to have this amount of activity in certain programs, and depending on where they fall on the intervention scale. So I think it's important that I'm talking to teachers about trying and encouraging more use of Seesaw, that I am like, it doesn't have to be screen time. You can I love to see activities where they are, interactive and engaging activities on their devices. However, if they're doing physical activities, if they're doing a puzzle, or they're using manipulatives with hands. I love hands-on activities. Have the student take it up a next level by them explaining it and recording their voice, recording their thoughts in Seesaw. Like that bumps it up a whole other level. They've already done the activity, but now you can really understand how well they know it. And where it might be an issue that you can, help figure out. Like you can probably give them coaching on, like, oh, they understood the basics of it, but they have a little thing I need to clarify before I go on to the next move on to the next level.
Yeah. I think that's really important, Brittany, to call that out too, is that when classrooms are using Seesaw, unlike the pandemic, Allie, as you mentioned, they're not on the device at all times when they're interacting. So much of what can happen with Seesaw is what happens off the screen, and you are adding a layer of support or video or giving an opportunity to explain, think more deeply, capture a moment, and do deeper reflection on it. And I think that is really a great reminder. As Allie mentioned, we're reintroducing Seesaw to some teachers in a way that maybe during the pandemic was used very differently. So I love this question, Juliet. Thank you for asking that about screen time. Any other thoughts on that before we leave that topic?
I think it just boils down to, I think Brittany said this, just the intentionality. In our district, we don't have a screen time mandate, which is very great, but we are actively coaching and reinforcing that we are using our devices intentionally and supporting our teachers. And what does that look like? How do we coach them? And it always starts with instruction first, what's our standard, and then tech second. And as long as you keep that narrative, and it's not just from tech, but through curriculum as well, you build that into your teachers, and it becomes part of the culture of the intentional use.
Yeah, I think with Seesaw especially, like Angela was saying, it's to document a moment. It's to further explain their thinking. And so we are the same way. We're we're encouraging that hands-on approach first and the, you know, interactions first, and then it's a way to document it. And then for like the teacher's sake, if they take a picture of their writing, then it's captured, right? It's building that digital portfolio, and it takes 2 seconds out of the kid's day to do that. And we're really trying to shift away from that just consumption on device to creation and sharing. And so the amount of time that takes versus just sitting in front of the screen to practice is oftentimes a lot less, because they've already done the work and the thinking, and now it's just sharing and showing what they know.
I think
We've had, sorry, you got Brittany.
My first exposure to Seesaw as a parent was when my child was actually his speech therapist was using Seesaw to document his progress. And those are things that cannot be, I can't read the paper and understand what they're working on, that skill, that practice, or how to practice with that student, but with my child. But the therapist was able to communicate in a way that could not be communicated any otherwise. And now that's tracked, and it's that standard is aligned to his goals. And so this thinking about Seesaw, how it can be used differently, not just the traditional way, is helpful.
Yeah. Caitlin, do you have something you wanted to share?
It's so funny because someone says something and I'm like, oh, I have a thought. And then Brittany says something, now I have a different thought. So it's just a fun group to be in and just listen to you both. But I know when I was a special education teacher and I taught middle school resource, I would do my progress monitoring and progress reporting inside Seesaw. So when it came to IEP meetings, I actually had the teachers and the families listen to their kids. And I had one parent in tears, and they said that they had never heard their child read before. I mean, what a powerful tool just to show that. The other thing I was going to share is some of our art teachers, and this goes off of Allie's thoughts with the portfolio. We're now using our Seesaw as a portfolio in special areas, so that captures those moments for those kids. And our special area teachers, they see hundreds of kids a day. How do you truly remember what the kids have done? You don't. So it's just such a great vessel. And for our art teachers, they show their work, and then they talk about the art terms, which I don't know many art terms, but they talk about how they were used in that lesson. And then they actually QR code it. And then when it was the art, what's it called? The big art show at the end of the year, they printed out the QR code. So it's like meet the artist, and the parents could scan and hear from the kid and how they created their art. It was so powerful, so fun.
It's a great example. And I think specifically integrating work from specialists and giving them also an opportunity to share their approach to instruction. So many families have never heard that or don't get to see all the thought, planning, standard alignment that happens outside of even their general classroom, obviously. But to have the opportunity to stay connected in that way too is huge.